the Starfighter Podcast.
All right, welcome back. We are here to discuss the Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 3. It's going to be a heavy spoiler review. As always, your co-hosts, Dom and Jake. And we have very exciting guests, Alex Broughton returning with his wife, Celicia. How are you guys doing?
Good, great. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks for coming on. So before we get started, for our listeners and viewers here on the channel, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Please continue to, follow us, give us support on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you're not already, please subscribe to the channel, drop a like, leave a comment, join the conversation, and let us know if we might have missed something in our review, and just how you liked it, how you may have not liked certain things from this episode. But we're going to break it all down here. And so what I want to do is let's give our quick initial thoughts, but let's start with Celicia. I know we didn't get to have you on WandaVision, but I know that you're a big fan of that show. So if you want to give us a little bit of your thoughts on that show and then compared to where we are now with Falcon and Winter Soldier.
I love WandaVision. As you can tell by my shirt, it's a Wanda shirt.
Very cool.
I really liked the show, that show, because it was very mysterious. We didn't really know what was going on for the majority of the show. It wasn't very good for the theorizing, obviously, because it was a breeding ground for all the conspiracy theories, but I enjoyed that. I thought that was really fun. And I just thought it was a whole different realm of the Marvel Universe we haven't really been able to explore yet. And a lot of Easter eggs. So it's very, very cool. Probably one of my favorite shows, more than some of the movies even. I really, really liked it. That it was really well done. I'm very excited for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Not as excited as I was for WandaVision and not as hyped for it. But especially with this episode, seeing some of the callbacks from other movies and little things here, you're really being able to see how it's mixed in with the whole universe. So I'm getting more excited as we go along.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we're all kind of on the same page with that. Alex, is there anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice change of pace from a mystery to an action movie or show. And that's what I've been waiting for, more action. The other one had some good action, but this one is really getting into more of the, of course, Captain America's everything around him, everything around his story, not just focused on him. So it's nice. I can't wait to see more of what they do with the show. So far, so good, but so we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's go ahead and give our initial thoughts on this episode 3, and that is entitled The Power Broker. And let's start with Jake. What do you think about this episode?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. All the action sequences were great. And having Zemo and Sharon return, I thought was really well done. I thought it was especially interesting how their characters are kind of a lot different from when we saw them previously. Baron is more outgoing and kind of funny. There are some really funny scenes with him, actually. And then Sharon's a lot more cynical. So it's been a long time, actually, since the events of Civil War when we last saw them. So it makes sense for them to change a little bit. But I thought that was really interesting. And again, we're seeing the same line of thoughts of these people like the new Captain America and the Flag Smashers, that they maybe have good ideals, but really the way they're going about things isn't the right way. It's really kind of ties back to Captain America for me, of really what would he do in this situation. That's not really how he, wore his title of Captain America. And that's certainly not what he would do, what Carly ends up doing in this episode. So yeah, there were some really intriguing parts, and yeah, looking forward to seeing how it develops.
Yeah, hashtag what would Cap do?
Like that.
Yeah, I also really like this episode. Real quick, Jake, where would you rank this one in the order so far?
I really enjoyed the first one just because I do like the action part, and I think it's very well done. But just kind of seeing Sam and Bucky in their just day-to-day lives, I thought was really interesting, and I really enjoyed that episode. But yeah, it's definitely getting really interesting of how they're setting up, the villains and who's the real heroes and all of that. But yeah, I think this one's kind of neck and neck with the first episode.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I've heard like a lot of different things online. For me, I think this is by far the best episode, but I know some people have problems kind of with the pacing. It is very fast, and there are certain scenes that were kind of short, but again, just skipped right into the next one pretty quickly. That didn't bother me too much. I didn't feel like that was too much of a big deal. Overall, I liked how it moved fast, and also another thing that I think we see is that, especially compared to WandaVision, this feels like when you put them all together, all six, once we add that, they're going to play just like a movie. So we kind of have to keep that in mind too, when it comes to the pacing, I think. Just like a movie, like in certain sections, it's going to speed up. And so that's kind of what we got with this episode, and I really enjoyed it. But Alex, you want to give us your quick thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, so far I think I'm like you, where I just like every episode more and more. As far as just how it's been going so far, and a lot has been revealed, and I was most excited to see Baron Zemo in this episode and seeing how he is after Civil War. I mean, we got a little bit out of him. They did him okay in Civil War, but they really are showing him more as a character in this series. So seeing him in just this total episode, I wish now we can have him more like this Baron Zemo in Civil War. I think it would have been really cool. But so far, I mean, so far so good, and everything so far with the new Cap U.S. agent. I honestly, I know this is something that people talk about. They don't like him. I like to hate him, but I like the way he looks in his outfit. I was excited to see how U.S. agent looked out, and so I don't know. He looks cool. I'm more interested to see what he does.
Did you guys see that meme where it's the guy from Up? The old,
Yes.
yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, and that was.
I wish that I had made that
first episode, but like now I'm liking how he looks and how it's like, because I think you probably mentioned in the past where he was supposed to be, I guess that was his first audition to be Captain America, and here he is acting that role. So it's nice to have an actor who wanted to play that character and then feel like a imposter to that character. So I'm excited to see if they're really gonna. I don't think they're gonna draw him out too much, but it'll be cool to see and one more thing is that it's hard to know who really is the bad guy in this show. Yeah. And so far, at first you think it's those flag smashers, but now it seems it's either Zemo, but now you think, okay, maybe it's U.S. agent. So really, that's where the mystery to me is. I'm enjoying is what's really the bad person in this show. So far so good.
I think it might be someone else other than who you mentioned, but we'll get to that later on.
She already has it.
Celicia, did you have any quick thoughts?
I agree. I think it's gotten better as it's gone on. I think it's really cool to see Madripoor. And kind of going back with what you were saying, how the pacing, I believe Kevin Feige said when he announced it, it's a cinematic show. So it was shot all at once like a movie. And that's why it feels that way, because it basically is just a movie that they split up into episodes. There was a couple of scenes, like the party scene. I was really looking forward to that scene from the trailer, and it was like really quick. And I was like, man, that looked like such a fun party. And it was like super short. But I thought it was really cool to see all these characters coming back. Like Sharon, she's like totally different now, which is cool to see a different side of her. It was really good. I was really interested in this one more than the other one. So I think it's going to keep getting better and better.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely agree. But yeah, let's just dive in right from the beginning. We've got this opening scene, this like kind of propaganda type of commercial with the GRC. And then we get John Walker. He breaks in and into the Flag Smashers hideout. They're already gone, but now he's kind of like interrogating the husband that kind of like took them all in. And Jake, take us through this scene, your thoughts and kind of more context, what we're getting from John Walker.
Yeah, I feel like it's pretty obvious his role in this show. Like even from the beginning of episode 2 to the end, he like grew scruff and he just kind of looks worse. Like he's just kind of looking worse every episode. And in this one, he definitely does. You know, he's just pretty much angry the entire time, which of course is not who Captain America is. But yeah, he's just very aggressive in the way he does things. And of course, you know, trying to get results. But yeah, it definitely shows, you know, his true colors pretty early.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Cap never had to like really remind someone like, do you know who I am, and just like really get in their face. But I could understand, you know, being spit at. That would make me pretty mad too. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I like the commercial. It almost was like another WandaVision scene, of course, with all their commercials, making a TV feel for us, not like a movie. So I like that. And so it's nice to see. It's nice to see, and I talked about this in WandaVision, where the blip really had an effect on everything. And like Tony, knowing that Tony Stark only wanted everybody to just come back, don't change anything. It's just another part of his character that he's willing to just act to save everybody, but not realize the full scope of his actions. You know, we've seen it with Age of Ultron, we've seen it with his armor that he made, everything like that. And so with the blip, it's like you realize that a whole group of people are really suffering here. And I like how it's not just a joke how they put it out in Spider-Man Far From Home. It's more of like a real thing. And then with this whole thing with the GRC, it's just another propaganda showing that, oh, well, you know, we're trying to make this world better, and really it's just getting worse. And so far I like that part. And with of course with US Agent, like how I was saying earlier, just getting to see him more in action is pretty cool.
Definitely. Celicia, anything?
I think they're definitely trying to set very early on, like Jake mentioned, how fake Captain America is very different than actually Steve Rogers. Just the fact that he has a gun on him at all times, like he's very brute, he's very forceful, he's very aggressive. Whereas we can see, like, you know, Cap can be like that, like, you know, with Thanos or like somebody, you know, intense, but not just with your everyday person. And so I definitely think by the end of this, I don't know if they'll give him the name US Agent, but if you look at the comic book, his suit is like the US Agent suit with like the stripes. So I think those little subtleties are trying to show us that that's what he's going to become. And I'm interested to see if they're going to do that within the show, or if that's something that's going to kind of happen later on. But we're getting a pretty good impression of the kind of person he is very early on.
Yeah, we were talking about it last week too, but we're really getting this sense of entitlement from him. Like he feels like he's put in the work, and now he kind of feels like he needs that respect, and he deserves this respect from everyone, you know, the same respect that Steve got. But, you know, the huge difference is that even, especially from the very beginning, you know, Steve Rogers was super humble and felt like he wasn't even worthy of, you know, being this symbol that he ultimately becomes later on. So a huge contrast there. But yeah, totally agree with that, with everything you guys are saying. And now we go over to Berlin. And so Bucky is he's gonna talk to Zemo, and you know, then he ends up breaking him out. But Alex, talk to me about this scene, and also what your thoughts are on, you know, right when he like initially walks in, you know, Zemo's trying to tell him using these words that he's familiar with, but this is a new Bucky. But tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, to hear the first line that we see him after Civil War is just the words of the Winter Soldier. It was like, already I got like chills. So I was like, oh boy, here he is, you know, he's back, and you know, what's he gonna do? And I think it's cool. Like, and I was saying earlier, it's cool to see him back in action and see more of his character being played out. But also, it seems as though even though he was evil, like he told Bucky, you know, everything that he did wasn't personal to Bucky. It was more of his goal to you know, destroy the super soldier serum, and to, you know, eliminate people like the Avengers who think that they're all high and mighty, and then they create all these problems along with it. And so it's like for Zemo, he's one of the villains that are so interesting in the MCU because he's not even with T'Challa, he said the same thing. What I did wasn't personal to you about your father. What I did to you, Bucky, wasn't personal about controlling you. But in the end, it seems like his goals. It doesn't matter how who he hurts, but he wants his goals to be accomplished. And I like this kind of Zemo that we're getting in the MCU.
Yes, Alicia, did you have any thoughts on this scene too?
He's very manipulative, and you really see that. And obviously, we know that, but I was like, I can't believe it, right? It's the first time he sees Bucky, and that's how he starts it off, just to see how he would react. So he's very smart. He knows what he's doing. He's playing the games, playing the field. I don't know. I mean, obviously he's a bad guy, but I think he's going to work with all of them as long as it's accomplishing what he wants. But as soon as their paths separate, he's no longer going to be helping them. That's what I think. But at the same time, I think Marvel's really good at having you empathize with the villain. Like Alex said, he's not personally trying to hurt them as a person. He just has his morals and his beliefs, and if he has to hurt people in the way, he doesn't care. So we can kind of empathize with him that he's trying to accomplish something that he thinks is better for everybody, but we'll see. I don't know. I think, like I said, he's very manipulative, so I don't 100% trust him.
Yeah, for sure. Jake, these words that he's throwing at him again, we see and he understands that Bucky, isn't going to be controlled anymore. Again, he's a new Bucky, but he also says to him, there's still something there inside of you. Do you feel like that's hinting at maybe Bucky really struggling with going back to his old habits? Not even necessarily being under control, but wanting to be a little bit more vicious, and especially when it comes to battle and missions that they're going on. But do you think this is hinting at anything?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a struggle for Bucky because he has to kind of toward the line of trying to be a different person, but he needs to accomplish his mission still, which involves doing stuff like breaking criminals out of prison and being violent, when that was rule number 2, is he's not supposed to hurt anybody. But that's really not possible. So yeah, I think it's definitely a struggle within him, because obviously he's very good at what he does, and a lot of people would try to use him for his talents. But yeah, I think that's just kind of be an overarching theme of really not being the Winter Soldier anymore, but trying to just be James Buchanan Barnes. But everything seems to kind of be pulling him in the other direction.
Yeah, for sure. I'll stay with you, Jake. We're going to go on to the next scene when they're on the plane together, Zemo, Sam, and Bucky. And again, Zemo makes these interesting points and things that you can, really stop and think about, as far as, the hypocrisy when it comes to superheroes, how they're portrayed, being idolized, stuff like that. How do you feel about this scene? Some of the things that he was saying, also your thoughts on, that book that came back again too, that Bucky has.
Yeah, there's a lot to break down, I feel like, in this scene, from him getting his comic accurate costume a little bit, but like you were saying, the words about heroes, it's very similar to what Sharon says later, that it's all basically a sham and everything like that. So he definitely makes good points. It doesn't work when you're talking about Captain America, because I think, we can all agree that for the most part, besides the one thing of not telling Tony, he didn't really have much flaws. But he definitely does talk about that, which I think was really interesting, because in Civil War, when he first meets Captain America, he looks at him and he says that there's a bit of green in the blue of his eyes, that it's nice to see a flaw. So I feel like he's kind of the opposite of Captain America, where Cap tried to see the good in everybody, but Baron sees these flaws and he thinks that he's better himself. But anybody who has flaws, which is pretty much anybody, shouldn't have that much power, which definitely proves his points for somebody like U.S. Agent abusing his power. But yeah, there's a lot to go over in this scene, a lot of funny parts too. But yeah, that was also interesting about the book, that it was originally Cap's, which I didn't even think about when I first saw it. But yeah, that's interesting. That's what he gave him, whereas he gave Sam the shield to go be a hero, like he knows he should. He really just wanted Bucky to become a normal person and just live his life. So I feel like that's the direction where those two will end up. But it's kind of cool to see that Steve was kind of thinking about that beforehand.
Yeah. So, Alicia, what do you think about this scene?
Really, just very funny. Just a very like nice, more lighthearted scene compared to some of the other scenes. I also really liked how that was Cap's notebook. I knew, like, oh, it's very similar. He's kind of doing the same thing that Cap was doing, except Cap was trying to catch up on pop culture. But I didn't think about it being the actual same notebook. So I thought that was a really interesting, just little thing that they put in the show. And kind of like what Jake said, it's like, I think Cap knew that Bucky wasn't ready to be Captain America because, I mean, he has a lot of stuff to work on.
Alex, how do you like this scene? I know you've been big into comic books, and those words about how he was talking about, we don't want to live in a world, full of Red Skulls, kind of makes me think. And of course, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it's fun speculating. I know, like in some of the comics, the Avengers have turned evil and been taken over, and maybe this could be foreshadowing some stuff like that. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing about Zemo here is that he's, again, he this is where I got that quote about him, talking about the whole Red Skull thing, talking about the Avengers. You have all these people on these pedestals like Captain America, and like he, how he mentioned Captain America being on the spotlight, but knowing that they don't realize that by doing everything they did, they don't reflect on the kind of impact it had on everybody else, even the normal people. And so, yeah, to really think about and theorize their kind of way they're going about it, that's a lot. And yeah, there's a lot of comic books that showed how, heroes, what would happen if heroes became bad. I mean, you have these really powerful people. Yeah, there has to be some restriction, maybe, on certain people. There has to, you get the government, you get the Civil War, you get the Sokovia Accords. For DC fans, you have Batman, who has, contingencies if the Justice League were to, turn evil. And so it's just a matter of knowing that there's a line. And of course, for Zemo, he's willing to make sure that line is put and do whatever is necessary. Which I liked, kind of backing up a bit, where we see how he has that fortune, him and his family being a baron. He has, and they really didn't touch on that. I don't think in Civil War, they only touched on that he was in the armed forces for Sokovia. So we never really got that he was royalty, so to speak. So it's kind of cool that they got more comic accurateness to him.
Yeah.
And of course, even like Jake's point, I didn't even like really contemplate that, why Cap would give Bucky his notebook to go back into live a normal life, whereas Sam is the next successor to being a Cap. But of course, they both feel like they just don't. Both Sam and Bucky just don't feel like they're worthy to move on that path that Steve gave them for either of them. Bucky doesn't feel worthy of living that kind of life, nor does Sam living, the title of Captain America. So it's cool to see that they are having this reflection, but also someone like Zemo to tell them, if you're going to go down that route, look what Captain America did, and look how everything happened because of him. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with that for the rest of the MCU, because now the title of superhero has really played a really very bad kind of way of vibe when it comes to superheroes. So it's very weird. So we'll see what happens.
I also liked how they said Red Skull, because in the comics, Red Skull, I believe, led the Flag Smashers. And it was interesting. I was watching a video. They were referencing how Red Skull had said in the first Captain America, I see a future with no flags. So it's just kind of an interesting, obviously, I don't think they had this planned from way back then, but it's just kind of an interesting, they put it kind of in there because it does kind of correlate with each other. That was cool.
Yeah, good points. Absolutely. Well, now we cut over to this camp in Latvia, and we get to see, Carly again, and we see that, some of her friends are dying, and really the show has been like bouncing back and forth with us, like kind of sympathizing with her, and then again seeing other scenes where it's like, no, you're not doing it right. You're going about things all wrong. So really interesting to see this. Jake, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, again, it's kind of showing the Flag Smashers almost innocence in the way that they're just trying to help people. And it was interesting too that this was a GRC camp, but clearly these people are not getting, the attention that they need, which kind of ties into a lot of who really is, the villain and what are they fighting against. But yeah, it was interesting to kind of see more of her. I think we really got a clear grasp on what she's trying to accomplish, but just kind of going about things the wrong way. But yeah, I think she's not the most interesting character in the show to me. Flag Smashers as a whole, I'm much more interested in Power Broker and Zemo and what they have plans. But it is kind of a nice side plot to turn to every once in a while.
Yeah, Alex, your thoughts?
Yeah, same with how Jake mentioned. It was as far as how I'm feeling with the Flag Smashers now. Obviously, it was more of a way to push them into the spotlight to not let us know who really is behind everything right now. So it's kind of like you said, like a second filler. But I like too how we're feeling that Robin Hood vibe with them. They're obviously like everybody in the blip. They didn't go away, and yet they were struggling to survive. And so it made me think, and we'll get to it, but it made me think of when at the end of Black Panther that they were going to set up, new spots, new places for the world to kind of get the technology that they need, the healthcare that they needed. And then ever since the blip, now we have the GRC. And like Jake said, everything seems like really not taken care of. And so now it's like, okay, where are these things ever since the blip? Now we just have worse, people to take care of, things. So it's definitely a different vibe. But yeah, I'm not as interested, but they're, at least we get to feel for them in a way that we see how people are affected by the blip.
For sure. Anything you want to add, Celicia?
Pretty much what they said. We get some sympathy for Carly. We see that what she's kind of fighting for, and we kind of can draw back to the commercial how the GRC is kind of like you said, propaganda. It's the government wanting people to think, oh, we're here to take care of you. But then, like Jake said, they're here in this, GRC place, yet they're suffering. So I'm sure it'll be elaborated on in upcoming episodes, but it was an interesting thing.
Yeah, I think you guys covered that pretty well. I echo everything you say. Now we go off to Madripoor finally, and this is where things start to really pick up. I think some of these scenes, especially in Madripoor, are like some of my favorite things that I've seen in Marvel. Period. But we get this awesome bar scene, and they're all disguised, or well, kind of, but they're also, well, it's mainly just Sam. Bucky and Zemo are pretty much themselves. But that was kind of funny, and obviously they're drawing, they're attracting too much attention to themselves. And then we have this awesome, scene where Bucky has to, pretend like he's under control and, go back to his old ways. And it was a crazy scene. I mean, Bucky was just tearing it up. But Jake, what were your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, this whole scene was crazy. I just really liked how they did everything, like cinematically. But yeah, there was just a lot to this. And I think the city is just really interesting in general. But yeah, there's so many Easter eggs like all over the place in this thing. One of my favorite ones is that Sam says, "Why is he the only one who looks like a pimp?" And apparently, in the comics, before he became the Falcon, he went by the name Snap Wilson, and he was a pimp. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, it's a pretty cool place. In which a lot of ties like you're hoping for to X-Men and everything like that, which we didn't see much of it, but maybe a few hints here and there. But yeah, I think Power Broker, whenever we see him, is going to be a really cool character, and just kind of how they're setting it up with this place was really cool.
Totally. Celicia, what do you think?
Very cool. Just visually was a really cool city to look at. Very different than what we've seen. I think the 10 rings have some correlation with Madripoor. So like you said, it's giving us a city that we know will link up a lot of different things in the future. It was a really, really cool scene. It was interesting to see how everybody's like, is that the Winter Soldier? Is that him? And I never thought about him like having this, like, these criminals knowing him. So that was kind of cool to see that he has a reputation, obviously just within the criminal organizations. And just, yeah, it was very interesting to watch.
Yeah, Alex.
Yeah, I honestly don't really knew. I never really knew much about Madripoor. I don't think I really read a lot into that city. So for me, it was kind of like touching new ground, so to speak. So it was cool. I like that vibe of a city like that, and really like a criminal underground, so to speak. It's kind of like in Star Wars, where you got like the criminal underworld, kind of like that city where anything kind of goes. So I can't wait to see what else they do in that area. Obviously, if like 10 Rings, places like that, or like if it has ties to X-Men, if it has ties to anything else, where they're gonna take that is gonna be interesting to really have a good playground in that city. So, and then as far as the bar scene and everything with Bucky, it was, you could tell, man, he was just he was really fighting it, but he had to do it. He had to break rule number 2. So it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, maybe he's been kind of bottling up a lot of that anger for a while.
Yeah, we could tell.
Yeah. I thought the music was pretty awesome too, especially when they're walking towards the bar. It was pretty sick. Question for all of you guys.
We got the Winter Soldier theme in there if you didn't hear it.
Yeah, the screaming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Question for all of you. So I learned that drink that Sam takes, it is a real thing. Would any of you ever be down to drink that?
Of course you would. Of course you would.
Well, that's because I don't mind, like, I don't know, eating meat or whatever is inside organs.
What is it? What specific organ was it of the snake?
I actually don't know.
That depends. It depends
I don't
on what
remember.
organ
Yeah,
it
maybe
was.
it depends on what organ it is, I guess. Snake drink, snake shot.
I mean,
what do you think?
it's not the worst thing. I mean, if you're just shooting it, you're not gonna even taste it. It's not that bad. I probably had
the
worse.
texture though, you can like feel it though.
Yeah.
You're gonna taste more of the drink than you are of the little slithering little
snake sack, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll
All
look that
right.
up now. Now you got me interested.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Google it, Alex. Let us know what it is.
Yeah.
But
Man.
we will move on. We get this intro to Selby, someone who's working for the power broker, and she gives them a lead on Dr. Nagel and who's behind the serum. But then Sam's cover gets blown with this phone call that he gets from his sister, and so that was a pretty funny scene as well. And everything kind of goes wrong, and now there's this bounty for all of them. Jake, you want to take us through this?
I think this was a really cool introduction to Sharon. She's definitely found her place here in Madripoor. Really, is adopting this kind of persona. And I think we'll come to learn more too about really what she's been doing her entire time there, because there was a few interesting points about, she knows a lot of people, she's kind of rich now, and it's like, who is she working with? I think that'll be interesting episodes to come. But yeah, I think I was kind of expecting, Zemo to like take off at this point or something, and at multiple points through this episode, but he's sticking with them. I've actually really enjoyed that we get another episode that they're all together still.
Yeah, I almost feel like he needs something from them too. Just what I mean? Just like they kind of need his help right now. Maybe we'll see that later on. But Alex, what do you think about this whole scene?
Yeah, it was, again, it's touching in a territory that I wasn't familiar with as far as who the power broker was, who these characters were. So it was all pretty much new to me. So far, it was, I think it was pretty cool. You can kind of tell it was one of those other scenes that you kind of felt a little rushed, okay, who are these characters? And then at the same time, Selby gets shot. And then now I'm wondering, okay, who shot her? And then, I don't know, Who?
Sharon.
Sharon? Was it Sharon? Did they
Pretty
I
confirm?
don't. I don't think. I don't
I
think
don't
it's
think so
confirmed.
because Sharon even confirmed like you guys shot somebody killed Selby.
I think that it could
That's
be.
true.
Yeah, I think that it could be, but it wasn't confirmed.
It wasn't
don't believe-
confirmed, but yeah, like that.
I
But the
just
whole
assumed
scene,
it
yeah.
was. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
That's
but I mean
true.
the whole scene. Oh, the whole scene with Zemo, toying with Bucky too, man.
He's like,
Like messing with him and
Like,
everything. I'm
oh.
like, oh, you feel bad for Bucky because it's like, obviously he was like dealing with that kind of thing literally throughout the years. Being this slave, for Hydra and everything. So you kind of get a sense of that in this episode, and he had to do it obviously, and so it was pretty deep if you ask me. But yeah, the whole thing with the whole action scene, everything like that happened, it was cool.
Yeah, Celicia, tell me about your thoughts on the reintroduction to Sharon Carter, and then also this deal that she's gonna make with Sam about her getting pardoned. What are your thoughts on that?
she's very hardened now. Very just, I don't care. I'm fine here. I'm selling art. Like, she's definitely changed. She's not, fighting for her country anymore, kind of a thing. And she doesn't seem like she really cares to go back home. Like, she's formed this whole world for herself. She's doing well. She has an area in the in the fancier area. It'll be interesting to see. I think for her, she doesn't know who to trust anymore. And Sam left her. I mean, they all left her to kind of fend for herself. Nobody was there for her. And so you can understand why she's like, oh, now you want to be here for me. But, all these years have passed. And granted, Sam was like, well, I got blipped. Like, I wasn't here, which is true. But the fact that none of the Avengers, anybody that was there, during the blip, nobody went, even thought about her. I didn't even think about her. I forgot about her, and so all of that has made her into a very hardened character. And, maybe as time goes on, she'll soften up a little bit and start trusting her friends again. But yeah, it's kind of sad to see that she's become like this, but also it shows that she's really strong. And she's toughened up to just, she's able to deal with whatever is, coming her way.
Yeah, totally. And sticking with Sharon Carter, we see her again, and we see how strong she really is when we move forward a little bit, and they find Dr. Nagel and his lab, and all these bounty hunters are starting to come, and she's going nuts. I mean, she's like relentless, and it's crazy. Jake, what was your thoughts on them meeting up with the doctor, and then Sharon kind of like protecting them?
Yeah, she definitely got the raw end of that deal, but yeah, she definitely can hold her own now, which I never really thought of her as weak, but we didn't really see her in action hardly in Civil War. So it was kind of hard to say, but yeah, she's definitely learned some things being a managed report. But yeah, it was pretty interesting with Nagel here. Just that there was basically no more super soldier serum, which was kind of interesting to me. I'd still like to know exactly how Carly got it in the first place. But yeah, he was an interesting character while he lasted. Kind of the second person in a few short minutes to die unexpectedly pretty quickly after he was introduced. You're just like, oh, who's this guy? Oh, it doesn't matter anymore, I guess. But yeah, it was interesting to hear kind of his point of view about creating that super soldier serum. And then we get the callback to Black Captain America 2, that he was working from his blood. So that kind of makes sense of how they tied that in, because it's kind of a standout, unexpected, how does it all work together scene in episode 2. But now that kind of makes sense of how they're able to recreate it after all this time.
Yeah, for me, I was really surprised that there was only 20 vials. I thought that there would be a lot more than that. But Alex, anything stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I know I haven't talked about Sharon Carter yet, but I think it's, for me, it was like, I got telling Celicia, I was like, I wonder how they're gonna go from her kissing Captain America to moving along to this point. And because obviously it's like, you gotta wonder, okay, what does she feel about that? But they're not gonna worry. I don't think they're gonna really worry about it. I think the way they just pushed her in here and we see how jaded she is like, oh my gosh, like you feel so bad for her, because she was one of those characters that kind of was left behind. And so it's kind of cool to see how she's really just gotten to be her own person in this show. And yeah, with the whole thing with the super serum, that it almost made me wonder if, of course, what he was saying, how Dr. Nagel was saying the CIA got a hold of it. I'm wondering if a certain person by the name of Thaddeus Ross was one of those people that wanted it, because we know in Hulk, the original Invincible Hulk, he was, he had that whole super soldier serum with the Abomination. So I wonder if that had anything to do with, somewhat tying. But with the government, it's like they want to recreate, super soldiers. They want to recreate the Iron Man suits, have their own army. And so we see more of this kind of going along with Cap's side. It's like now they're trying to get his blood, or in this case, the other Captain America, the one Elijah, what's his name?
Was it Elijah?
Isaiah.
Yeah.
Isaiah. Elijah.
Yes.
But then his son, yeah.
Yeah. So I seeing Isaiah and really seeing how there was just a lot that we just didn't know. And so to see how this kind of came up, and I can understand, what you were saying as far as like, I don't know how they can make 20 vials in all that time, but I think they even said it was only a certain time that he had the chance to do the serum with the CIA until the blip happened. So
yeah, that's right.
So now without those resources, it was kind of like very limited. So, but yeah, another scene, of course, where we see another character just get wiped out by Zemo. So, but I feel like it was important to see another serum come to be created, but obviously it wasn't the big picture here.
I think it was good that they only had 20 vials. I mean, if you would have been like, oh yeah, there's 10,000 super soldiers out there, then it's like, there's no way they can do that on their own. And so I think that gives them a reasonable amount of people that they need to find and do whatever they're going to do with them. I think this also showed, again, Zemo's manipulation. He had his own plan going on. That's, they were shocked that he shot the doctor, but again, his goal is to stop this. So if this guy knows how to make it, well, how do I prevent more from being made? Take the guy out. So again, this is just showing how he has his own plans. He's going to do what he wants. And again, he's going to use Sam and Bucky and Sharon and all of them, just, a means to an end, basically.
Yeah, good point. I'll throw it back to Alex. The rocket hits the lab, and now they gotta, get out of there and kind of shoot their way out. They're, being attacked from all sides, and Bucky and Sam kind of have this dialogue back and forth, like, you follow
left.
me this way. Yeah. Take us through this scene.
Yes, they were like, it's not like the movie, like an action movie. You're not supposed, so they're. I mean, you can kind of feel for that, because it's like the moment you think, okay, well, how do they do in the movies? But that's Hollywood, so. But the whole scene was pretty intense. I thought Zemo, I think we talked about this, I thought he was just going to fail. This was his moment where, of course, we see the real Zemo come out again. But no, he totally surprised us. He came back and is helping them. He wears the mask. It's so cool to see him actually wearing the mask. And I know people were theorizing, well, what if, because of how it looks, maybe he's taunting the whole Thanos look. But you forget that that's how he looked in the comic books, and so it's not, that would have been cool if they wanted the MCU to make it an origin style, but obviously the way he looked at his mask when he first grabbed it from the car, it had some kind of meaning before Thanos and before everything else. So it's cool to kind of get that side of him, and then to see him in action. He was ruthless. He was pretty quick. He's, obviously not one to mess with, but it's just another thing where he was coming back for them. And it's like, again, it goes down to the fact that he's not wanting to make them their enemy yet. He needs them to serve his purpose. And so we'll see if when he's going to turn on them. But so far he's really making out to be like he's on their side for now.
Yeah, Jake, like Alex had mentioned, he's he didn't take the easy way out when he definitely could. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was cool just to see him fight, because he definitely is a genius and manipulative and has all these plans, but he can also handle himself, which was pretty cool. But yeah, the most interesting part of this whole thing was I kind of assumed Sharon would stick with them for a little while, but she's definitely got her own agenda as well. I thought it was pretty interesting how she said that, we got a problem and actually there's multiple of them. and it kind of seemed like she was referring to Bucky and Sam being a problem in some sort of way. I thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, because really, who knows what's been going on in her life, who she's working with now. She definitely has some sort of power. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see if she was working with Power Broker, and maybe, yes, just a spy or something, but she definitely has connections there. So I thought that was an interesting point.
Power, like in a social aspect, or like authority kind of thing, or you think actual, like maybe the serum?
Oh, no, just as like she has a commanding effect on who knows. She has one person who just pulled up and is driving her around. I assume
Right.
I assume that she has people under her, sort of like a mafia type thing. And I could definitely see her being part of Power Broker's people.
Yeah, well, I'll throw this out now. I think that Sharon might be the Power Broker.
I would die.
I was thinking that too.
But Celicia, yeah, I'll throw it over to you. I know you had some speculation on that too. So what do you think?
I mean, I guess she could be. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, Jessica Jones, it was the second season, the character had the same name as the Power Broker's name. And so I heard people saying how they may not have the Power Broker be the same guy that he was in the comics here, because it was kind of already referenced somewhere else. And so it could totally could be someone completely different. I know that people were saying that maybe Ross, is that his name? Yeah, that he could be the Power Broker. He could be involved somehow.
Oh, okay.
He's definitely not a good guy. I'm just very interested to see like if they're actually going to like show who the Power Broker is, because obviously he's very important in the comics. So I'm curious if they're just going to like reference him, like how we saw in Madripoor on the wall said what's his name again? Power Broker. Mm-hmm. So many names. Power Broker is watching. So is he just going to be like this mysterious person? And maybe it was him that shot what's her name? Selby, because she was gonna be like, okay, I'll give you everything you want if you do this, this, and this. So I'm very excited to see where they're gonna go with that, because he's definitely got some commanding force. And if Sharon was a Power Broker, that would be a twist that I would not be expecting. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool too. So now we go over to John Walker again, and he figures out that Sam and Bucky are with Zemo and they broke him out, and now he's kind of the mindset, I don't necessarily need to be tied up with following the rules and stuff too. So Alex, what do you think about this? What do you think it could mean going forward?
It's like, I think somebody might have said it, it's just he's honest. I think it was you that said it, but like how Cap just didn't feel like he was worthy, and here we see Walker, he's trying to get to grab that respect by force. And so here it's like just another thing that he sees what they do, and it's like he's like, well, if they can do it, why can't I? And if this is going to get the respect I need, then let's go ahead, let's go do it. And he obviously knows how they work, and he's just like, we just need to find them, we need to do what we need to do, and and no matter what we do, at the end we did it. We accomplished our mission. I think that's how I forget how he said it, but that was pretty much the line. It's
like the end justify the mission.
Yeah, like basically, like once we finish the mission, we know the government, how they are. We did the mission no matter how we did it. And so literally it's like, it just shows he's not worthy of being Captain America. Obviously, we're seeing more of the US agent side of him, where, Cap did think about every concept, everything that he did. But, in this case, he's like, I don't care what we need to do, we're going to do it. And so it's really, this scene in particular really showed that he's obviously going towards that evil side that we're all waiting to see happen.
Yeah, it was like, they need to know that the job was done, not how it was done.
Mm-hmm.
Jake, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of feel like it kind of ties into the overarching theme of like morality and justice, because yes, Sam and Bucky are breaking the laws, breaking people out of prison, and yes, Steve Rogers also went against the government and followed his own moral compass. But there's a fine line between doing something because you think it's right and doing something because you want to exert your power and show your dominance. And that's kind of, I feel like, the difference between them. I think it's just something that everybody has to figure out in this show.
Yeah, totally. Celicia, do you have any thoughts on that too?
Walker definitely, I feel like he feels like he's in competition. You know, he's competing with Steve Rogers and how he did things. He's competing with Bucky and Sam with how they're doing things. And so instead of just focusing on himself, he just wants to win basically. He's like, I want to be the one who gets everything fixed. You know, I want to be the one who gets the super soldiers. I want to be, you know, because like you guys said, he's trying to get that respect, but he's going about it the wrong way. And we can kind of see how he's just angry and he just wants the mission to be completed and he doesn't care how.
Yeah, for sure. So now we're on this plane ride again with Sam and Bucky, and this was really, an interesting conversation. Sam's feeling like he made a mistake, but not in the sense that he should have held on to the shield. He thinks that he should have just destroyed the shield altogether, and obviously that upsets Bucky. But Jake, tell me your thoughts on this.
Yeah, the shield just means so much to so many people, especially in different ways, between Bucky and Sam. But yeah, somebody's got to have the shield for what it really represents, which John Walker doesn't really get that. He thinks it represents power and strength and respect that you command over people, when Steve Rogers' whole thing was kind of living up to the symbolism of Captain America and the shield and kind of what it stood for, and he was always just trying to live up to that instead of using its power. But yeah, it definitely is just a symbol for so many people, and it's kind of gone back and forth now in the show of what it really represents. But yeah, I think that's something, again, that they have to figure out through this show, of who is going to take it, because somebody has to eventually, otherwise they'll just take it out of the museum again and give it to somebody else who's corrupt. But really, who's going to be that person who leads them and leads the Avengers and kind of the nation as a whole, and who's going to be that person who is most like Steve that can carry on his legacy.
Yeah, Alex, what do you think of this scene? And kind of like what Jake was saying about the symbol of the shield, to me, it's always been a symbol of hope and, rising above this evil that we find. But what do you think about all this?
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with how you both have been saying about the shield. It is a symbol of like hope and a symbol of, freedom from evil, because Cap had it during the time of Nazis and Germany and Hitler, and, he freed everybody, and he was a symbol that he was a hero to everybody. He was kind of like the Superman of the universe. Everybody looked up to him because he was guiding the way out. In the same way, in the modern world, where he was leading the Avengers, helping them fight off forces beyond through the world's perspective. And so it was definitely it's not just that it meant something so many people. It's that Captain America Steve lived that, and he used that shield throughout the time he used it. And so for was it Sam to just say, I just want to destroy it? It's like it's because he can't. I feel it's like one of those things where you have so much weight on your shoulders, so much responsibility. He can't accept it yet. And at this point, he sees all the problems that surround it, that he just is like, I just don't want to deal with it anymore. I just want to toss it away, throw it away. It doesn't deserve anybody, because it's become such a problem. And I feel like that's his problem personally, because Steve knew he needed to take the shield. He needed to lead and take it to the next step, but he just is not yet ready to feel that within himself. And so the same goes with, Bucky, of course, he's trying to help him out, but he's obviously dealing with his own problems, feeling like he's worthy to be a regular person. And so I think that it's much more than just throwing away the shield. He needs to really feel that, he's worthy to hold that shield. Like, like Thor's hammer, it's a big symbol. It has power, it has meaning behind it. Yeah, it does have power, but in a way that if it's used correctly, can mean a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely. Celicia, what do you think that it's going to take for Sam to feel like he's finally worthy?
Honestly, I don't think Sam thinks anybody should have the shield. I think for him, he's like, no one can be Captain America. No one should be Captain America. It started with Steve Rogers. It dies with Steve Rogers. And I think that's why he gave it to the museum, because I just don't think in his mind, right as of right now, that he feels that he doesn't think it's a legacy that should be continued. And I think for him, in order for him to want to take on that role, he would have to not feel that way. He would have to feel like, no, you know, we do need somebody. And maybe this whole experience will show him like putting in a museum didn't solve the problems. Giving it to somebody who didn't deserve it didn't solve the problems. So, okay, you know, Steve thought I was worthy of it, then let me have a go at it. And maybe that will kind of push him to try it out.
Yeah, I agree. It's probably going to be something, you know, down the line with these missions that they're going on. Something's going to click for him, for sure. But moving on, we get this scene with Carly and one of her friends again, and they blow up this GRC building. Again, we're going back and forth, you know, whether we should feel for them or whether we should think that they're the bad guy. And, you know, her friend says there were still people in that building. And she's like, this is the only language that they speak is violence. Jake, talk to me about this scene.
They definitely made them seem like the good guys the first couple episodes. You can kind of get behind what they're doing. Yeah, they're fighting against Sam and Bucky. Okay, they're trying to steal food basically and vaccines for people and stuff like that. It's like, okay, that makes sense. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I guess Carly's a terrorist now, basically. Just killing people, and that's cool, I guess. And there was basically no remorse in her at all, which kind of I felt like almost tied to the loss of her mother. Maybe she's just extremely angry at that point. And I feel like that might be kind of a turning point for her to really see that they're not doing enough to save the people that they love and that they need to do more, which includes taking these extreme steps. And that's kind of what I got from that.
Thoughts on this, Alex?
Yeah, so back when I was saying how they were pretty much like a Robin Hood kind of team, now that we've gone to this point, we see they're really more of just another reason to have guerrilla warfare. They're just there to just, you know, propel, you know, repress the, you know, be anarchy, be terrorists. And so you don't really, at that point, you're like, oh, you know, I had feeling for you. Now you're just some other, you know, terrorist group that just needs to be taken down. So you kind of like, if you would have stuck to, and I know that's usually what happens, like how Jake said, you know, when you have problems go wrong and you lose people, obviously you want payback, or you might feel like you need a sense of, they deserve what we've been treated. And that's how obviously Carly is feeling, right, Carly? Yeah, Carly feels with this whole thing. And so obviously it's going to come back on them. I feel like in the end, we're going to definitely see that no matter what they try to do, even if they think it's right, it's going to come back to haunt them.
I don't necessarily think maybe the Flag Smashers as a whole are bad. I think it's more Carly, because even her friend was like, what are you doing? Like, this is not what we stand for. This is not what we do. You're crossing a line. And I think for her, like you said, there was no like remorse in her eyes. She's just like, this is what it is. Like, this is the only way we're going to accomplish what we want. And so, again, I think just with what she's personally experienced, maybe we'll get a backstory on her to see like what started this, you know, for her. But again, you can kind of see, like, I think they said that it was like 6 months of supplies that were just sitting there that weren't being given to anybody. So again, you can feel for them. You can see why they're doing what they're doing. But Carly's obviously kind of going on her own path and kind of dragging the Flag Smashers along with her.
Yeah, well said. Well, now we can move on to our final scene. We cut over to Latvia, Zemo and Sam and Bucky. They all get to their destination. But Bucky says he needs to go for a walk. And, you know, he's walking down the street. He spots on the ground. I want to pronounce this right, but he spots some small Kamoyo beads. And, you know, he takes them into this alley, and he says, you know, he's kind of like turning every which way, you know, you drop this. And we get this big reveal of Chief Ayo, I believe is her name. No? What do you think her name?
It's close.
Close enough. Okay, so Chief Ayo. I stand corrected. Chief Ayo. So very awesome. Alex, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, as soon as we saw the beads, I was like,
I knew it.
Mm-hmm. But then you think, yeah, because obviously Baron Zemo's out of there, and he was the one who killed, you know, the king before T'Challa, King T'Chaka, mm-hmm. And you know they're after him now that he's out of prison. So that's why even Bucky was like, you know, I knew you'd be coming here sooner or later, and so I mean, and what's sad is that we all know, of course, with T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman, he's not here for that. But I feel like I wonder if he would have been in this shot had he still been alive. I'm not sure. That would have been cool. But honestly, I wonder what they're going to do now, because now that they brought Wakanda into this series, it's like, okay, how are you going to connect with what's happening with Chadwick and what's happening with what we're dealing with now? So that's a whole new questions, theories. So we'll see. I looking forward to it. Good cliffhanger, good ending. They're very subtle with the cliffhangers, if you ask me. But I think I like that. It doesn't leave much room to really like theorize.
Yeah, so I mean, I believe, and you kind of touched on it, but the connection seems like her in particular, she was responsible for looking after the king, T'Challa's father, and so obviously, Zemo's the one that caused all that and his death, and so now she's probably feeling responsible, and she couldn't save him, but she can get revenge. So that's where we're at now. Jake, you want to give us your thoughts?
That was basically the point that I wanted to make as well. I'm glad you said it, because it's like I would expect to see Okoye there, maybe Shuri. But yeah, I think it's interesting to learn more about Ayo's character now, because we did see her for a few minutes in Civil War, but obviously don't get too much screen time. But yeah, it's really interesting that they chose her, and I like that whenever they bring back characters, that's always cool to see. But yeah, exactly how this ties in, I was not expecting them to go in this direction at all, to bring somebody like Wakandans into this mix. There's already, kind of a lot going on. But it's really cool to see, and it really surprised me. And I'll just be interested to see how it goes from here, because I don't think Wakandans are really known to stop at anything until they reach their goal, which is basically what T'Challa was doing the entire movie of Civil War, was just not stopping until he had Zemo, no matter what. And yeah, now basically Ayo's got the same job to do. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Celicia, thoughts on this final scene?
Very cool surprise. I was not expecting it at all. I think it's really cool. They're showing that everything's connected. This is one universe. They do interact, like in the comic books. I mean, you see X-Men, Spider-Man, Avengers, they're all together. And so now we're kind of getting that, in subtle ways. I kind of wonder if maybe this was Bucky's plan all along, that he knew, he was taking a risk, breaking Zemo out, but he knew that the Wakandans would find out and that they would come. So he knew he would have backup. Because like he said, like he wasn't surprised to see the beads there. He wasn't surprised to see her there. He figured that they were going to come. So I kind of wonder if maybe that was his plan all along. But it was really cool to see her. Again, even though she didn't have a lot of screen time, she's so recognizable. Like I knew her. It wasn't just like any Wakandan. I knew it was her. So that was really cool, and I'm excited to see what happens next.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point you made. Maybe Bucky planned that all along. I'll be excited to see what happens too. But now we can, give our maybe final predictions or final thoughts of this episode. We'll start with Alex.
Yeah.
Any predictions going forward?
How many episodes is this total?
6, I think.
Is it 6 total? 6.
Halfway there.
We're in the halfway point.
Ooh.
So honestly, like at this point, we should start getting a lot of answers to like how everything's gonna end at this point. And I feel like as far as any predictions might happen, we're gonna see. I think you kind of hit it on the head there, so as far as like Bucky has another alternative to not only use Baron Zemo, but to now serve justice and have that because in for him being the Winter Soldier, Zemo had an effect on him because he killed the king, and now used him as a weapon. And so I feel like in the very beginning, when we saw him using the book to make amends, like this is a way of him making amends, not only to what he did with Zemo, but to also make amends of giving them, back the prisoner who killed the king. So I think that's what's going to happen with Zemo here. And then as far as with, Sam, obviously we're going to get more into, whether or not he's going to be, worthy of the shield. Honestly, I think if they're smart, I would wait until you give him the shield still. After everything we've seen for 3 episodes already, halfway into the show, nothing to me shows, and the way how Sam feels right now, how hard-headed he is about the shield. I don't see him wanting to just say, okay, I'm going to pick up the shield now. So I feel like it's going to probably take some time, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they're going to go for this next halfway point.
Yeah, Celicia, any predictions going forward?
There's a lot going on in this show. I mean, you have Walker, you have now Wakanda, Super Soldiers, Flag Smashers, Power Broker. There's a lot going on, and so I think in these next 3 episodes, I think they're going to simplify what the goal is for this show, because they have introduced a lot of different elements. They can't do everything. That's just not going to work because it's too much. But I'm interested to see if they're going to bring in Ross. I really hope they do. I think that would be really cool. I heard one person like maybe he's president, because he was like Secretary of State, and they were like, who became president after the blip, because 5 years, so somebody new obviously has to be president. So that would be really cool to see if he was like really in control, if he's partnering with the power broker. I really hope they bring that up. Like they actually show like, oh yeah, this is the guy or the girl or whoever, this is power broker. And we saw in the trailer that Sam and Bucky did get the shield. So I'm wondering if maybe that's gonna be like the final scene, like wrapping up the whole shows. They have the shield and that's it. And then maybe we'll get a season 2 or something else, it'll be incorporated into another movie. But I don't think we're gonna get all of our answers at the end, just because there's a lot of questions that we have, but I'm interested to see where they go.
Yeah, likewise. Jake, predictions?
Yeah, just in the short term of this show, like Celicia was saying, yeah, I don't think it'll have too much of a definitive ending, sort of like WandaVision didn't as well. I feel like they'll use these shows, to kind of set up their big movies and plot lines. But I'm really interested to see Zemo moving forward. If they really are going to keep him going and kind of make him into a big bad in the Marvel universe. I feel like that kind of could be the direction they're going, considering there's no like Avengers movies in this phase. I feel like they could really be planning for something huge and maybe like a team up as well, because of course we didn't end up seeing Mephisto in WandaVision. Zemo is a very big name in the comics as far as the most powerful villains. And then, as I'm sure you're wanting, Dom, there was, kind of possibly like Doctor Doom references in there, which was kind of interesting. There was one part where Zemo asked Bucky and Sam if they visited the Sokovian Memorial, which was shown in the trailer for this show that Zemo visits. So I'll be really interested to see that scene. But he says that the country was ravaged by its neighbor after, the whole kaboom, whatever you want to call it, the events of Age of Ultron. But one interesting point, that its neighboring country is Latveria, which is ruled by Doctor Doom. So I feel like that could be a huge thing, because I think we'd all love to see Doom, because he's just so cool. But yeah, I really am hoping for that in general. But as far as this show, I think they're really trying to make it similar to Captain America, the first Avenger, that movie, in just kind of its similar tone and ways of doing things. There was an interesting part, like we kind of talked about Zemo saying, do you want a world full of Red Skulls? And, Red Skull, he has a lot of similarities, I feel like, to US Agent, that he wants the power. He kind of wants to be like Cap, being a super soldier. And he definitely has that kind of fascist mentality and dictatorship and just abuse of his power that US Agent does. And specifically that Dr. Nagel said that there was no more vials left that he produced, because he produced good ones that didn't have any side effects or anything like that. He specifically says that nobody ended up disfigured or in a mech suit, which Power Broker is in a mech suit in the comics. But I kind of have a feeling possibly that US Agent might take some serum to gain his power, but he might end up disfigured like Red Skull. I think that would be really cool to see.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting for sure. I'm right there with you. I feel like Zemo kind of stole the show in a way here. I thought he did really good. I definitely want to see more from him. And like, Marvel is, regarded as just being so great when it comes to their shows and their movies. But like, we've talked about this before. A lot of people would say that their biggest weakness is not really capitalizing or sticking the landing with their villains. And I thought he was one of the best villains in Civil War. But of course, we didn't really focus much on a villain because he was kind of like pulling the strings in the background. We were focused on, what was going on with Cap and Tony. But now we're getting so much more from him. And again, he just had like a really commanding presence in this. I think going forward, he can just really be a great villain, and really interested in seeing what's going to happen with him. Again, I think that, Sharon Carter could possibly either be working for the power broker or indeed be the power broker herself. I think that'd be a really crazy spin. So that'll be really cool to see whatever comes of that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I've got. I think that pretty much wraps it up, unless anyone has anything else.
No,
I think we
just
said it
excited.
all.
Yeah.
All right.
Halfway
Well,
through.
Well, hey, I mean, it's been fun, Alex and Celicia. You're welcome back anytime. And before we go, do you guys have any, shout outs or plugs you want to do? I know you're a Twitch guy, Alex. You got the sweater on, so you want to.
Here you go.
Very nice,
follow
very
my
nice.
follow my sign. Leo the 3 line.
All right.
If you want to watch me finagle with different games. And follow and comment, like, subscribe on this channel. This channel, you guys have been doing really well. So keep up the good
Thanks,
work.
man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe it'll be fun if we have Jake take us out. If you want to do our outro for us.
Oh, am I up to it? I don't know. But yeah, like Dom said, I appreciate having you guys on. Alex has always been a top tier guest when we've had him on, but nice to see you here too, Celicia. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
And yeah, we'll definitely have you guys back again. Either towards this show, we got so much going on. I mean, I'm sure we'll all be watching Loki together as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes.
So excited.
Definitely doing that. But yeah, just nice to hang out with everybody, talk about this awesome show. And again, thanks for everybody for listening. Like, subscribe, check us out, YouTube, Spotify. We're all over the place.
And stereo.
And stereo. Yeah, we do our shows. Stereos usually Wednesday, 6 p.m. I'm trying to be on time for that. Dom's much more of the scheduling guy. He texts me and I'm like, oh, I totally forgot about it. I'll hop on now. But yeah, check us out on that because that's actually been a lot of fun too, getting good support over there. But yeah, we will be back Wednesday for stereo, and then we'll just be back again next Friday for episode 4 of Falcon Winter Soldier. Looking forward to that as well. But yeah, that'll do it. Thank you all again. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.